welcome to Women's Wealth, the podcast with me, Joanne. My mission is to educate, inspire, and empower you all to step into your own life of wealth. That feeling of being so rich in your mind, body, and soul. I'm so happy to have you here. Let's get straight into it. Hello, lovely people. Welcome back to another episode of my podcast. I'm going to get deep in today's podcast. I'm going to be talking about mental health and anxiety. This podcast has been really inspired by the death of Liam Payne this week, because I really do feel, and I know that we're probably never going to know, we'll only know what we're told by the media, we will never know how he was truly feeling, but watching videos of him, talking about his mental health and mental health issues that he's had, and he's mentioned taking it into his own hands. I don't know if I can say the word on the podcast. I don't know. I know AI checks what you're talking about. So taking it into his own hands when he's been on podcasts. I think the one I saw, he was with Stephen Bartlett, and all of these are just a cry for help. And I just think that we're still living in a society where mental health is not seen as important. I always compare mental health to physical health. So let me share my analogy. So if you have a headache, you can take a tablet, it's going to go. If you break your leg, you can go to the doctors. You're going to, look after the broken leg. It's going to get fixed. If you have a broken leg, you'll probably have to have a couple of days off work. If you have a slipped disc, same. Treatment, few days off work, you're going to get bed rest. You're going to, rest if you hurt yourself physically. If you're, touch wood, in some kind of accident, same. So all of these things, because you can physically see that there's something going on there, I feel, and especially in workplaces, this is okay, this is acceptable. Oh, they had a car crash, they're taking a week off. Oh, they've broken a leg, they've got to take a few days off. Oh, they've got this, they've got a doctor's note for this, etc., etc. When it comes to mental health, because it's not something we can see, first of all, I think, is that the reason why we don't really take it as seriously? We're not really, do we distrust? Is there a distrust in what people are saying there? I don't know. So these are just all, what comes into my head, because I know that we see people, and again, just using celebrities as an example, a lot of the time when we see celebrities with quite clear mental health issues, even going back to Britney Spears 2007 when she shaved her head, that was a complete episode, a manic episode, mental health episode, where she was just not in a good place, and we know that now. But even still, she gets ridiculed, or people make comments about that. And even Liam Payne, just the weekend, yes, he turned to substances, and I think a lot of the time this is maybe why mental health is seen as people who turn to substances because of their mental health issues are then, it's seen as less of a thing. So again, let me just use my analogy of, you're walking the dogs, you fall over, you break your legs because the dogs have pulled you, and you have a fall. Broken leg, everyone's like, oh my god, are you okay? Da, da, da. You go out on a night out and you're really drunk and you fall down the stairs and you break your leg. It's still a broken leg, but the way that it broke, you were drunk. So no, you don't get as much sympathy. It's like, oh god, you were drunk, were you? You kind of deserve to fall down the stairs and break your leg. Again, this is the way that I feel like we look at mental health. That, mental problems, so's drugs. A lot of people who are doing that have only turned to those substances because they couldn't cope with how their mind was without them. I've spoken about my own mental health, my anxiety, and I do actually feel quite lucky that I was able to tune in, spot the signs, spot the symptoms, realize that I was anxious, and start to learn how to help me to get out of that without going down the substance route. Whether that mean, whether it's because I like to think that I have good willpower, or is it that I have this, I don't know, this scientific, but the muscle in my brain, the mental health muscles a little bit stronger. So yes, even though I was anxious, I was able to take this path of, right, let's recover, let's plaster this mental health up, let's learn about yourself and let's fix it and let's get you feeling better? Or is it that some people who have the same mental health issues have a weak mental health muscle that then they cover it with drugs and substances? I don't know. I don't know if that's science. That is just my own thoughts of why some people are able to deal with it without substance and some people are able to deal with it, are not able to deal with it. Over the past few months, there has been 4 people in my local, at home in the UK, local men who have taken that second path. And whether it's been they've just gotten a little bit too far with a substance that they're taking, or they've used the substance on purpose to go too far, stop to whatever it is they're feeling. Just a little reminder here that I think as women listening, most women listen to this podcast. Oh, that would be nice. Most people who listen to this podcast are women. And I think that we're quite lucky in a sense that we talk about our mental health with each other. And I know that I can message friends and family. Right now, if I was feeling anxious, I could message someone and they would say, oh, talk to me about it. And I'd be able to talk and they would remind me of the things I need reminding of and help me through it. Men don't do that as a rule. And it's interesting that I read a stat, I wrote it down here, 40 million adults were diagnosed in the US last year with some kind of anxiety, nervousness or worry syndrome. Women are diagnosed at nearly double the rate of men. That just shows that, there's something going on anyway with mental health. There's something going on with men and mental health. I don't have all the answers. I'm just here today just to chat about it, just to shed a little bit of light on the situation, and hopefully, this is my call to action for any women listening to this. Check in with your friends, check in with your male friends, and if you are feeling anything but your normal self, and I hate using the word normal, but the best way to put it, your balanced self, that's the word I normally use, balanced. If you're feeling anything but balanced, please reach out to your friends, to your family. I reply to messages when I get them. It may take 24 hours or so because my not always online story, but if you message me and say, I've listened to your podcast and this is going on in my life at the moment, I'm not going to charge you. Yes, I know this is my job, but it would also be, I have a duty of care just as a human being to support people and try and help them through. That's my call to action for today. Check in with your friends, your family, your male friends and family, and check in with yourself. I know I've shared a lot about my own anxiety in the past, and for me it was health anxiety, general anxiety disorder, that it was just this day-to-day ongoing worry, overthinking, limiting beliefs. And again, I feel that I was lucky that I didn't go down the path of self-medicating. I was able to, I went out at the weekends, and it was, the people pleaser side of me, the anxious side of me was doing it because I didn't want to upset other people, and it would make me even more anxious if I didn't go because I didn't, the overthinking of the people pleasing and drinking alcohol, and then I would have the anxiety even more heightened for a few days, and then I'd do it all over again. I wasn't turning to those substances, those drinking and alcohol Monday to Friday because I didn't have that need. So for me, I'm very lucky that I was able to sort of box it off. Yes, I was going to work every day anxious, that was quite normal for me then. But like I said, I was able to realize what was going on, speak to people around me. I guess I just taught myself how to help myself. And again, not a lot of people have that luxury in their lives. I've just mentioned this, but I've written down here 1 in 5 adults experience a mental illness in every single year globally. That's a lot of adults. And a mental illness can be be anxious episodes, panic attacks, depression, stress. They all do slightly differ. Depression is not the same as being anxious. I went to the doctors years and years ago with anxiety. I was having panic attacks and he tried to give me antidepressants. I took them, I think, for about 2 days, and they made me feel floaty. I don't know if that was just a placebo effect. I didn't like it. And it also did say, when I read the leaflet, and my grandma, my nan, told me don't take them. In the leaflet it said not to take depression these tablets if there's a history of suicide in the family. We had a suicide in our family when I was a little girl, but I was then thinking, am I meant to take these because someone in my family has taken their own life? And she was like, don't take them. So I stopped. I would say that was probably back in, oh my god, maybe 2007. And that's when that's when I was having panic attacks, and that's kind of when my anxiety started, and it was sort of on and off until 2018. That's nearly 11 years. 2018 is when I really started to turn the page, because I know I've mentioned my dad's illness before, but it was kind of slap in the face that, oh my god, I'm anxious about absolutely nothing, and then this thing has come along and it's a real life situation to worry and be anxious about. And it kind of spun me around and made me see that, not that I had something real, I can't explain it, and I know I've spoken about this before, but up until my dad being sick, I was anxious every single day about anything. And then my dad became sick, and I was like, right, you need to sort yourself out, you need to be there for your dad. And I started meditating, I started drinking alcohol, I started learning about myself and how my brain was working, and journaling and getting out in nature, and I started yoga and all of these things to really help me, so that my mind was able to cope with a situation that I actually had to get through, not something that was completely made up in my head or overthinking or limiting beliefs. I went to the doctors with anxiety, and he tried to give me depression tablets. Anxiety is ongoing worry or nervousness. It's that feeling that something bad is going to happen. Depression is feelings of being really sad, hopelessness, a lack of interest. You don't want to go outside. Now, I didn't ever have that. I was never depressed, because I was always, and I guess this is kind of a bit of a paradox, I was happy, but I was anxious. That is possible. So I was doing amazing things, and I, going out and would feel like I was having a good time, but then I was anxious as I was doing it. But with depression, you don't want to leave the house. You don't want to do those things. You kind of pull yourself in. A little fact here, there's been an increase, and this is not going to surprise you, of depression rates, particularly since COVID-19, because of social isolation and economic stress, and people being, we were taken away from our daily life as we knew it. And I know that we would call that our normal life, I guess. And have we even got back to normal life after that? Sorry, just pausing to think. Have we? Will we ever? And I don't think we ever will. We're never going to be back to the pre-pandemic way that we used to live. So yes, now we're not, we don't have all of those things, but then people lost their jobs and their livelihoods, and people died during the pandemic. We had all of these rules and regulations put onto us, and I feel like since then we still kind of live in the fear of, oh my god, we hope that doesn't happen again. Maybe this so 2022, so 4 years of decline in mental health across the world. The pandemic has got a lot to answer for. How do you know if you have mental health issues? Now, again, going back to the analogy of broken leg, broken arm, that is obvious. If you have persistent worries, persistent sense of sadness, so it's every day. You've got no interest in doing things. You used to love going out, and now you just stay inside. You don't feel worthy, and you may have, for me, I stop wearing clothes that make you feel nice, and you're just like, oh, I can't be bothered. Everything's just, I can't be bothered, and you've got this feeling of worry, you can't sleep. And it's a feeling, and this is how I always describe it, of impending doom, even when there is no impending doom. So if you're listening to this and you're like, oh my god, I feel like that's how I feel, reach out to somebody. because there will be somebody that can talk to you about that. Also, physical symptoms, our anxieties, our worries, our mental mindset does manifest in our physical body. So if you're stressed or anxious, it can manifest as shoulder pain. Obviously, if you're stressed, anxious, depressed, you're going to lose sleep, so you're going to be tired, you're not going to want to eat. That is one thing that used to affect me actually when I was anxious. I actually was able to sleep, but I wasn't able to eat because I had that feeling of, you know, when you're excited to go on holiday and you can't eat because you're excited. It's that, but the opposite. So you might be hungry, but you feel sick because you're anxious. And then, you know, you eat and it makes you feel worse, or you try and force food down, and it just would just be like, oh. So that's when I used to treat my body poorly, because then I would reach for convenient food, because the only things that I could really stand was food that was bad for me, and that was just representative of how my mind was. So, you know, McDonald's or takeaways most nights, and, you know, nothing that would really nourish my health, or I'd skip meals, or, you know, that kind of, I wasn't paying attention to the cues of my body. Again, just take a moment now just to reflect. It may be that you're like me, that you've come out of the other side of this. So please, please, please use your experience to help others, because some of these things, again, it's when you've come out the other side, you know, sharing your experiences with this, because it really helped me when I spoke to somebody else with anxiety, and I was like, oh gosh, I'm not going crazy. Like, this is anxiety, when they would be like, oh my god, yes, I also have anxiety, I've got a therapist, you know, I meet people, and like, oh my god, thank you so much for sharing that, because you do at a time feel like I'm the only person that feels this way. So just stop, reflect, and if you notice any of these things in other people as well, you know, ask them if they're okay. And, you know, some people, depending on who it is, you can say, like, oh, I've noticed that you're really tired lately, or you're not really eating. Is everything okay? Is there anything that you'd like to talk about? They might say no, and they might say yes. They might say no and then come back to you because you've opened a door. There are a few things that you can do if you're listening to this and you're, oh my god, that's me. I think I'm anxious, or am I depressed? And you don't want to go to the doctors because you don't want to take any pills, and you would like to learn how to deal with this yourself. First thing I would say is, and again, mentioned this a few times in previous podcasts, is learning how to reframe your thoughts. Even if it's stuff like, I was speaking to my friend the other day, and she's in the UK, and like, she'd already reframed the thought, but she was telling me that she'd done this because it's winter, and she was making sure that she didn't start to slip into, you know, the deep depressions, the seasonal affect disorder, the SAD that we can get. I think I get it in the summer here because I can't get outside, I can't connect with nature. So just reframing those thoughts, and we were chatting about, yes, it's winter, and, you know, it's a really good time to reflect, to come in, to hibernate, and just knowing that under the ground, under the snow, under the ice, and metaphor for yourself, things are growing, things are blooming, getting ready to shoot out again in the spring. So reframing it from, oh, cold dark nights, and just putting that sense of dread onto you to, okay, this is a time for me to do X, Y, Z. Other things that worked for me is CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and I did some of this in my coaching course, but I also had a therapist. And really simple things, asking yourself when these thoughts come up, can I do anything about this situation? Yes. What is it? Go off and do it. Can I do anything about this situation? No. Why? Because it's out of my control. Okay. Then you kind of gear yourself away then from thinking about it. So if you can do something about it, okay, let's put some steps in and do it. If it's out of your control, it isn't your worry. So let that go as best as you can. And this really works when it's worry about other people, or worry about, so I went through, you know, my health anxiety, all of these illnesses, and, you know, asking myself, is it true? Is it within my control? So if I thought that day, and this is how I would have an illness for about a week, life-threatening illness, But then once I started my cognitive behaviour therapy, I'd ask myself some question: have I got any evidence for this? Most of the time it was no. So, or I would say not right now, or no, and then I would reflect back, and eventually those worries would go. Is there anything I can do about this? So yes, so sometimes I did take myself off to the doctors, because I could take myself off to the doctors and I would have whatever test, or they would, just send me on my way because I didn't have the thing that I was worried about. God, I think I've gone with so many things. And then I actually went with health and anxiety. And I'm sure they probably looked through the notes, and I can laugh about it now, but at the time it was horrible. I remember teaching and thinking to myself that I had some kind of cancer. And in my mind, when the kids were being noisy, and all I was thinking about was, I've got this and they're just here doing, X, Y, and Z. And this all stemmed from just a pulled muscle in my arm. I hurt my arm was aching, but then I, of course, then had some deadly disease because I had this muscle pain. Cognitive behavioural techniques, and you can Google these. So again, for a lot of people, getting support can be, a lot of money. And if you don't have the money, these are readily available online. I used something called the Worry Tree. What was the other? I can't remember. But a lot of them now are just kind of set in the way that my brain works. So can I control it? Yes, no. And I can follow this pattern of, and it puts an end to it. Also started my gratitude practice, daily affirmations. I still do that now. I have a reminder on my phone that goes off every hour, and I just say thank you, thank you, thank you, and I quickly look around for something that I'm grateful for, because it was a really good reminder of everything that I actually had in my life, and then all of these things that I would worry about and think about that didn't even exist. So bringing my attention to the things around me that did exist. I used affirmations. I would write my affirmations down in my journal, write them on the mirror. Again, these things I do still do. Not religiously, because I don't always, obviously the gratitude, yes, religiously, every single hour my phone goes off. I have affirmations written on my mirror. I tend to change them every couple of months now. And I will come into affirmations, as I'm driving along, but I don't tend to write them down in my journal anymore. I just have them in my head. So it's gone from a big journaling exercise to I am peace, I am calm, and just turning the affirmations that I need, just saying them out loud. Mental health, we really need to move, and you may not want to hear that, but going for a walk, doing something that you enjoy, get those endorphins pumping. Yes, I know it's getting cold now in the UK, so it might not be walkable weather, but if you go to a gym, go for a walk on the treadmill, just do what you can to get your body moving, get those endorphins going to help to improve your mood. Have some yoga videos online, try meditation. These are all ways. I know meditation is not technically moving, but it really helps you. In that case, you're sitting still, you're clearing your mind. Yoga is the perfect way for me to clear my mind, because I can't think of anything else. When you're standing on one leg trying to balance, you're not worried about that pain in your arm that you've been worried about all day, whether it's going to kill you or not. You're just focused on standing on one leg. So that's the way that I use it, and that's what works for me. And then trying to incorporate these things into your daily life. So instead of it becoming like, I've got to go and do this, it becomes a habit, it becomes part of your routine, and then you'll slowly start to see the anxiety, the depression, the stress, the negativity sleeping away. Of course, there's other ways. I've just touched on meditation, but there's sound healing. My sound healing bowls are here. If you can get yourself to a sound healing session, it's amazing. There's also online sound healing. Go to my YouTube. I've uploaded sound healing before. And of course, lavender oil, having a nice bath, just doing these things that help you to pay attention to yourself. Also, having a look at your nutrition. I know I've just mentioned that when I was anxious, my nutrition was absolutely shocking, because I didn't have the love for myself to eat nutritious food. And having a look at how much omega-3 you're eating, those leafy greens, they do help with your mental health. it helps us to support and balance our hormones, which then in turn gives us so it's helping to support our cortisol level, which then in turn gives us the power to be able to, work on our mental health. And failing all of that, there's then external help. I had a therapist, I found her online, it was really easy to do. I know I've seen other people talking about Better Health, or is it Better Help Me? I can't remember. There's a website that I've seen a lot of podcasters talking about. Everything that you need, you can find online. There's free things on YouTube, there's podcasts like this one, there's other podcasts. And it's important that we do this because going back to what I was saying at the start of people taking a different path, and it's so sad to think that the second leading cause of death among men is taking it into their own hands over everything else that could possibly end your life. That is second. Just let that sink in, because there's so many other ways that it could happen. I don't want to be too morbid about it. And it is, men are 3 times more likely to do that than women. So if you're a woman listening to this, again, please go check on your men, make sure they're okay. What we'll do is put a few links in the show notes for today of websites that I've used, and of course reach out to me. Please, homework, I'm going to say it again, check in on your men, check in on your friends, check in on yourself. Remember, small and consistent steps with this. You can reach out to me, and I will see you in the next episode. Please subscribe if you really resonated with anything that I said today. Go and have a listen to some of my other podcasts where I share my own anxiety journey. Hopefully that will inspire you, and I will see you in the next episode.